أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pemirsa yang dirahmati Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, jumpa lagi di channel Zaman Akhir. Bagaimana kabar semuanya? Semoga sehat walafiat dan dalam lindungan Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Pemirsa yang dirahmati Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, video kali ini masih membahas tentang Khazar, sebuah imperium dan juga nama suku bangsa yang pernah berkuasa di Pontic Caspian Steppe atau pada rumput Pontic Caspia. Kali ini kita akan membahas keruntuhan Imperium Khazar, sebuah imperium yang memiliki kekuatan untuk menciptakan keamanan, kedamaian dan kemakmuran bagi rakyatnya, dan juga kekuatan untuk mendikte kerajaan tetangga atau juga disebut Pax Khazarica. Bagaimana dan apa penyebab keruntuhan Imperium Khazar akan kita bahas dalam video ini. Sebagai kerajaan yang kaya dan kuat, Khazaria bukan tidak memiliki musuh. Beberapa suku bangsa yang berada di sekitar Khazaria berkeinginan mencaplok Khazaria. Suku-suku bangsa yang tercatat dalam sejarah yang berkeinginan mencaplok Khazaria adalah suku bangsa Magyar dan Pechenegs dari timur, suku bangsa Rus dari utara dan Bizantium yang membentuk aliansi militer dan dinasti bersama Khazaria. Akibat tekanan dari berbagai arah, Khazaria akhirnya melemah. Serangan menjepit dari suku bangsa Rus atau Varangian yang datang dari utara dan Oghuz Turk atau Pechenegs dari timur tidak mampu dibendung Khazaria. Serangan air yang datang dari Pangeran Rus Sviatoslav the Brave melenyapkan Khazaria dari peta. Penduduk Khazaria yang beragama Yahudi bermigrasi ke Eropa membentuk komunitas Yahudi Ashkenazi. Meskipun para sejarawan berkeras menyangkal kenyataan pahit ini. Bagaimana kelanjutan videonya? Mari kita saksikan bersama. Tetapi sebelumnya, berikan like, komentar, subscribe, dan tekan loncengnya.
By the 9th century, groups of Varangian Rus, developing a powerful warrior merchant system, began probing south down the waterways controlled by the Khazars and their protectorate, the Volga-Bulgarians, partially in pursuit of the Arab silver that flowed north for hoarding through the Khazarian Volga-Bulgarian trading zones, partially to trade in furs and ironwork. Northern mercantile fleets passing Atil were tithed, as they were at Byzantine Kherson. Their presence may have prompted the formation of a Rus state by convincing the Slavs, Maria and the Chud to unite to protect common interests against Khazarian exactions of tribute. It is often argued that a Rus Khaganate modeled on the Khazarian state had formed to the east, and that a Varangian chieftain of the coalition appropriated the title of Khagan as early as the 830s. The title survived to denote the princes of Kievan Rus, whose capital, Kiev, is often associated with the Khazarian foundation. The construction of the Sargol fortress, with technical assistance from Khazaria's Byzantine ally at the time, together with the minting of an autonomous Khazar coinage around the 830s, may have been a defensive measure against emerging threats from Varangians to the north and from the Magyars on the eastern steppe. By 860, the Rus had penetrated as far as Kiev and, via the Dnieper, Constantinople. Alliances often shifted. Byzantium, threatened by Varangian Rus raiders, would assist Khazaria, and Khazaria at times allowed the northerners to pass through their territory in exchange for a portion of the booty. From the beginning of the 10th century, the Khazars found themselves fighting on multiple fronts as nomadic incursions were exacerbated by uprisings by former clients and invasions from former allies. The Pax Khazarica was caught in the pincer movement between steppe Pechenegs and the strengthening of an emergent Rus power to the north, both undermining Khazaria's tributary empire. According to the Schechter text, the Khazar ruler King Benjamin fought a battle against the allied forces of 5 lands whose moves were perhaps encouraged by Byzantium. Although Benjamin was victorious, his son Aaron too faced another invasion, this time led by the Alans, whose leader had converted to Christianity and entered into an alliance with Byzantium, which, under Leo VI the Wise, encouraged them to fight against the Khazars. By the 880s, Khazar control of the Middle Dnieper from Kiev, where they collected tribute from Eastern Slavic tribes, began to reign as Oleg of Novgorod wrested control of the city from the Varangian warlords Askold and Dir, and embarked on what was to prove to be the foundation of a Rus empire. The Khazars had initially allowed the Rus to use the trade route along the Volga River, and raid southwards. See Caspian expeditions of the Rus. According to Al-Masudi, the Khagan is said to have given his assent on the condition that the Rus give him half of the booty. In 913, however, 2 years after Byzantium concluded a peace treaty with the Rus in 911, a Varangian foray, with Khazar connivance, through Arab lands led to a request to the Khazar throne by the Khwarezmi Islamic Guard for permission to retaliate against the large Rus contingent on its return. The purpose was to revenge the violence the Rus razzias had inflicted on their fellow Muslim believers. The Rus force was thoroughly routed and massacred. The Khazar rulers closed the passage down the Volga to the Rus, sparking a war. In the early 960s, Khazar ruler Joseph wrote to Hasdai ibn Shaprut about the deterioration of Khazar relations with the Rus. I protect the mouth of the river and prevent the Rus arriving in their ships from setting off by sea against the Ishmaelites and all enemies from setting off by land to Bab. The Rus warlords launched several wars against the Khazar Khaganate, and raided down to the Caspian Sea. The Shetter letter relates the story of a campaign against Khazaria by HLGW around 941 in which Oleg was defeated by the Khazar general Pasek. The Khazar alliance with the Byzantine Empire began to collapse in the early 10th century. Byzantine and Khazar forces may have clashed in the Crimea, and by the 940s Emperor Constantine VII Porphyrogenitus was speculating into Administrando Imperio about ways in which the Khazars could be isolated and attacked. The Byzantines during the same period began to attempt alliances with the Pechenegs and the Rus, with varying degrees of success. Sviatoslav I finally succeeded in destroying Khazar imperial power in the 960s, in a circular sweep that overwhelmed Khazar fortresses like Sarkal and Tamatarka, and reached as far as the Caucasian Passage and Circassians and then back to Kiev. Sarkal fell in 965, with the capital city of Atil following, circa 968 or 969. In the Russian chronicle the vanquishing of the Khazar traditions is associated with Vladimir's conversion in 986. According to the primary chronicle, in 986 Khazar Jews were present at Vladimir's disputation to decide on the prospective religion of the Kievan Rus. Whether these were Jews who had settled in Kiev or emissaries from some Jewish Khazar remnant state is unclear. Conversion to one of the faiths of the people of Scripture was a precondition to any peace treaty with the Arabs, whose Bulgar envoys had arrived in Kiev after 985. A visitor to Atil wrote soon after the sacking of the city that its vineyards and garden had been razed, that not a grape or raisin remained in the land, and not even alms for the poor were available. An attempt to rebuild may have been undertaken, since Ibn Hakal and al-Muqaddasi refer to it after that date, but by al-Buryani's time it was in ruins. Aftermath, impact, decline and dispersion. Although Polyak argued that the Khazar kingdom did not wholly succumb to Sviatoslav's campaign, but lingered on until 1224, when the Mongols invaded Rus, by most accounts, the Rus-Oghuz campaigns left Khazaria devastated, with perhaps many Khazarian Jews in flight, and leaving behind at best a minor rogue state.
The final blow came in the late 960s, when the ambitious Rus prince, Sviatoslav of Kiev, sailed down the Volga River and seized Atto, sacking and razing it, dismantling the Khagan's realm in the process. Several decades later, Sviatoslav's son, Vladimir, asserted Rus authority over former Khazar territories, including Samandar, the revered vineyards and gardens of which were burned in the conquest. It seems that land and riches weren't the only things the Rus seized from the Khazars.
Къде е Василевца?
Върни се в строя или ще те засека!
След като утре се отдъхнем, дружините ми ще се отправят водени от тебе към уния твърдини, където все още има ромейска войска. След днешния ден не бива да остане читав ромей, земите обживени от си.
Controversially hypothesized by some historians to have been the source of Eastern Europe's future Ashkenazi Jewish community. But this is a matter of intense genetic analysis and historical debate, which will likely go on for years to come.
Until 1224, albeit in a greatly reduced territory, it is generally agreed that the Rus campaign left Khazaria devastated, and only a minor rump state remaining in its stead. References to Khazars in written sources persist up until 1106, when they finally fade from the record, although it is worth mentioning that many of these references seem to be misattributions. Despite their tragic fall, the Khazars left their mark on history. From the 13th century, they entered Russian folklore as Jewish heroes in the land of the Jews, and today they are distinguished as one of only 2 Jewish states to exist between the fall of the Second Temple in 70 AD and the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. The Khazars have also been noted for their successful policy of religious and ethnic tolerance, seemingly a rare thing in the early medieval period. Along with the decentralization of their state and their exploitation of trade routes through their territories, it has also been hypothesized that the remnants of the Khazar population migrated westwards and went on to form the core of the Ashkenazi Jewish population in Europe, although it must be noted that most scholars are skeptical of this view. The theory gained traction in the second half of the 19th century and was brought to the attention of the wider public in 1976 with the publication of Arthur Koestler's The 13th Tribe. However, the theory has also been used to discredit or deny Jewish nationhood, and as such has also been taken up at various points by writers or groups with an anti-Semitic agenda.